right, Griffin, thank you for being here. I just want to say this has been like an ordeal here, right? It's like we're trying to get the show done, but talk about determination. It is snowing outside. We've like planned this a couple of times, and you made it here.
2 times it snowed that he's been here.
Yes.
Doing this.
And things happened.
Yeah.
Tim's fault. But thank you for being here.
Not a problem.
Really, you're a really good friend, and we're glad to have you.
Absolutely. I love you guys and I love what you're doing. And, this is something really special. I know you guys care about it and I respect it more than anything. And having been through it all myself, I definitely, want to give my story, tell my story for, not just you guys, but anybody else out there that, needs help or advice or just somebody to listen to know they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. And know that it's possible.
Absolutely.
And our stories are similar, a little different, but very similar. We're both males, similar age, white males, similar age, both grew up in fairly good families, never had massive, issues and trauma when we were younger, but we still ended up with a very similar story. So why don't you go right ahead and tell us how it all started? And
all right. Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely say our stories are no question, down to some of the stuff we did, almost identical. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And it goes back to tell you, there's just so many people alike out there. Myself, I was born on the shoreline of Connecticut, very prominent town, good family. Very busy family. I have 3 siblings. I'm the youngest. A lot of mental health in my family. My father was a prominent real estate broker and wasn't really around much. Not to say my parents were bad parents. They're good people, gave lots of love. My mom was a school teacher. Just weren't really around much. I want to say, my childhood, I didn't really have any issues until probably like 10, 11 when I started to like kind of grow into my own and develop a real personality. I guess that's kind of when I started to notice like I wanted attention.
And you were the youngest too.
Yes, the youngest. And, and my parents weren't really there. Mom was at work, dad was at work, and my brothers are all older than me, hanging out with their friends. And, I kind of felt kind of left out, I'd say, and just really wanted to be accepted. I definitely acted out in school, got suspended and in trouble and whatnot. And they'd call my parents and my father or whatnot, and he'd come pick me up or bring me home. And there was never any consequence for my actions. In my entire life, I cannot remember one instance that I was even so much as grounded or not allowed to watch TV, nothing. Just
long leash.
Whether I was arrested or suspended or, whatever, no consequence. I think I was in like 5th grade, 6th grade. Even younger than that. I think I was in like 4th or 5th grade when, I'd come home at like 10:30 at night on my bicycle and like, nobody asked any questions, Got like a job when I was like 14, 15 years old working at a deli and like, you'd think parents would like ask, oh, you got a job? Like, who works there? Like, who gave you the job? Like, are they paying you? Like, how does, you'd think they'd want to be involved. Yep. But,
right.
And having, not saying that my parents are bad parents, they're great parents. I just wouldn't go about parenting kids the way they did. Giving such a long leash and, no discipline or whatever. So I'd probably say my first encounter with drugs was, I don't know, must have been around like 14 years old. I think it was weed and alcohol. Might even been at the same time. And it was definitely around my brothers, bringing friends over and see them smoking weed and drinking. It's like, oh, this is what cool kids do, and I wanted to, do it and did it. And it felt cool. And it's like, I think it was more about being accepted.
Yeah, and being part of.
Well, more of attention-seeking behavior. It's like, being the youngest and, family of 6.
Yeah.
And, some attention, getting in trouble is kind of like attention-seeking behavior.
Yeah.
And then also same thing, with your brothers and their friends and, doing what they're doing. It's also kind of like, fitting in, being accepted, getting the attention. I can relate a lot to that.
Yeah. So it felt good. I remember, being looked at and like part of something, and, that felt good. And, smoking weed with him and stuff. And like, he just felt accepted, like part of a family. Even until this day, I think my family, we only even sit down together as a family to eat, like on Thanksgiving and Christmas, only 2 days. Other than that, like my parents would make dinner or whatever, but we just take the plate and go wherever we wanted to. You could sit at the table, but you'd sit by yourself. Everybody else was in their bedroom or wherever else. So yeah, that was my first interaction with drugs, and it didn't stop. It wasn't like an everyday thing, but whenever there was opportunity, like I did get a job when I was like 15. I was working at this deli in town, like sweeping floors, and there was older people that worked there, and it's like I'd smell weed, and it's like, oh, I know that smell. These guys, I can be friends with them too. And it's like, I'd start smoking weed with them and drinking with them, and now it's like, here I am, 15 years old, smoking and drinking weed with people in their like 20s and 30s. And fortunately nothing bad like molestation or anything happened to me, but that definitely could have happened.
Right. Especially with no parents around.
Exactly. And things, the leash didn't get shorter ever. It definitely got longer, if anything. And I developed a mentality that I can do anything, right, and get away with anything. And it progressively got worse as far as like, crimes being committed. Like I got arrested in like 5th grade for possession of marijuana. And once again, my dad like hired the best lawyer, got me out and got me off of everything. And it's like, oh, cool, I can do whatever I want.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Superman complex. I did the same thing. Yep.
Absolutely no consequence for my actions.
And now what about your parents at this point? Like how are they doing?
My parents, I want to say, growing up, I want to say it was, I know they love each other. My father is definitely the type, marry through sickness and in health, through rich or poor, or good or the bad. I know my mom, she had some pretty serious mental health issues. My oldest brother has some bad mental health issues, and my mother as well. Matter of fact, one of those first parties we had, I didn't even realize what was going on. I mean, looking back, it kind of all sank in years later what actually happened. And but my mother tried to commit suicide, and it was one of the parties at the house. And we were all drinking and smoking, and my brothers had gone downstairs to get more beer and found my mom on the basement steps, and she was like, screaming like weird stuff, like geometry and just complete nonsense.
Just out of it.
Yeah, and my brothers told all their friends to go home and called my dad down, and they called an ambulance, and come to find out she attempted suicide. There was no real reason that we realized at the time of her why she was attempting suicide, but apparently it's like, I guess when she was younger, her oldest brother was murdered, and her father passed away, and then she like bottled up all this negative energy and depression and for all of her life, and got married and had kids and just put on a smile on her face. But I don't know what happened in her life. And, I've only been able to really talk to her about it these days, fairly little without her getting upset about it. Also, she's pretty heavily medicated nowadays. But apparently all that just came out. And she went from having a really good teaching career and being like a specialist for autistic and special needs kids, and a reading and writing specialist. She even like worked with Yale and whatnot. And she literally lost her job. Like that was it. She was so bad, and she ended up becoming institutionalized after the suicide. It got pretty bad. But meanwhile, my dad was there the whole time to like help her through anything. But
still working.
But no conversation was had with us.
It does go to show how important like communication and like just not bottling things up. And if you're feeling something, just talk about it, even though it's uncomfortable to talk about something in that moment.
Yeah,
what it can heal and help in the long term is so important.
Yeah, I promote communication all day. In every relationship in my life today, I communicate, and I promote communication all day long because, there's some things that sure are good left in the closet, but, it's always good to talk about, especially a huge issue like that, like what's going on in a family, in a life. especially with yourself. You know, you don't want to keep that type of stuff in. It's like, I wish, looking back, I had somebody to talk to like tell me like, hey, it's okay, this is what's going on. But none of that happened. None of that transpired. Yeah, so nobody was there to talk to me, you know, and talk me through things about like what was going on. It's just, I was just left in the dark to like, you know, think whatever. And you know, it's like I go back to school the next day, and nobody even, I'm 95% sure, 99% sure that nobody like called even the school to like let them know, like, you know, and here I am in 6th grade. Like, you think my dad would like call the school,
right?
And let
Guidance
them know.
counselors
Yeah.
and people to let them know what's going on.
Like, hey, this kid, his mom attempted suicide. But no, I just go back to school like everything's bright and dandy and fine, and nothing. So now you know, I don't know exactly how long it was, but I was on the school bus, and you know, it's raining, and the bus goes down this road to turn around and come back, and I'm on the bus, and I must have been like 7th grade, and I see my mom in the rain with her dogs on her lap, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? You know, like and I told the bus driver to stop, and she stopped, and they didn't want to let me off the bus, and it was like the old buses where you could pull the handle. And I pulled the handle and I let myself off the bus, and the bus driver obviously didn't leave me there. You know, called dispatch, who called my father, and my father came, and sure enough, she attempted suicide again, a bunch of sleeping pills. And, you know, all this stuff from the past in her life that she just suppressed, you know, didn't talk about, finally came out. And, you know, she just had a breakdown. And then it didn't get better from there, you know, in the household. You know, me and my brothers are still able to do whatever we want to do. And, you know, we're like witnessing all these arguing, and it wasn't even on my father's end. Like, I remember this one situation, my dad brought home like cantaloupe that was like not ripe or something. And my mom just started smashing all this fresh fruit just bought in from the grocery store, just slamming it down the sink drain in the kitchen. You know, my dad was furious because my dad he's a very frugal man, and he does not like to waste money. And, you know, here my mom is, you know, putting $10, $20 of fruit down the drain, and, you know, just turning this massive argument, and the police got called, and, you know, the arguments got progressively worse. And I remember one night, like, my mom was just like hitting my dad over the head with an umbrella, and he shoved her into a wall. And then because one of the times the police came, they called DCF, and in our state, that's, you know, Department of Children's and Families. And they, after they realized my mom had attempted suicide twice and was institutionalized, they decided it was best that we all get taken from the home. You know, and this is like a prominent town on the shoreline, and this doesn't happen, you know, especially with like a real estate broker as a father.
Thing is, it does happen, just a lot of people
nobody
don't talk
talks
about
about
it.
it.
And that's
Exactly,
more
yeah.
of the reason of this. It's like that does happen. Things like
Yeah.
that do happen.
Yeah.
It is more common than it's discussed and talked about, and that's how it is important to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's probably, I definitely used the wrong term. It does happen, and you know, it just, I don't know, it felt wrong what was happening, and like I just all the time I'm just this kid wishing I had a family that like was normal and sat down for dinner together, and like, you know, said I love you, and like went to soccer games together and whatever else, and picnics and camping trips. Never had that growing up, and that was hard. So, you know, I looking back, I think, you know, all my acting out, that's what it was, you know, getting in trouble, trying to get attention, and just really somebody to talk to, but nobody, you know, reaching out. You know, I take full responsibility for everything in my life, but still, I just think that was the source of a lot of it. So now, you know, we all get put in these different facilities, and we're separated, and, you know, I'm in like this children's home with, you know, and it was like age dependent. It's like, because I was a certain age, I went this one place, and my brothers were a different age. 2 of them are twins, and they went to another place, and my oldest brother went to this separate place in a whole nother state. And I mean, it was definitely crazy. And I mean, I was surrounded. It wasn't like, you know, a horrible place, but this wasn't a place filled with like great kids. You know, it was like bullies, and, you know, I mean, I handled myself good, but it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't home. You know, and, you know, I still was going to school. They had like school there on the premises, and, you know, you had your own bed, and there was chores and structure and everything else. And they had like religion there. It wasn't pushed on you, but there was the option to go to church. I never did. I wasn't really one for religion.
How did you handle that now environment, like going from no structure to a lot of structure and being almost institutionalized? How did you handle that?
Well, I like structure. Like yourself, I thrive on structure. And, I always made my bed and I'd always be looking to do more chores. I love to stay busy. As you guys know, it's like, I showed up today and there's snow on the ground. I love
Shoveled our whole driveway.
I love to do stuff. I love to stay busy. It's like, and you guys got the house. It's like, oh, I just want to do stuff. I love to help. I just like to stay busy. So they loved me there, to say the least. I was like the only kid that's like vacuuming the TV room and like, dusting the shelves and everything else. I'm like, oh, this kid's great. Like, we don't even have to hire a janitor,
How long were you there for?
It was like a year and a half. Wow. So it wasn't a short period of time. And, that entire time I was in contact with my father. He would come every Saturday and play cards with me on visiting hours for like 2 hours, wherever, just sit there and play cards with me. And, I was always scared to ask questions, and still nothing was talked about. He'd tell me how my brothers were and everything else, but nothing was talked about. And I really didn't know what to say or what to think. I just knew I was sad, and despite being in a pretty comfortable place, I wanted to be home, and right. I wanted to be back in my. Despite how chaotic it was, I wanted to be back in my home. And get whatever piece of normalcy I could have, see my friends and everything else, despite how negative they were or how old they were, pot smoking or not, I wanted to be back there. So as time went on, I ended up getting released from there, and we all went home, and it started with like a trial thing with DCF there, and my mom was medicated at this point, going to see a psychiatrist, and they determined it was good enough for us to go home, and that part of our lives kind of went into the past, and till this day isn't really talked about. The mental health was never really talked about, and she's, getting all these pills, and I remember seeing like all the bottles on the counter and stuff, and I never really asked questions about it. I just knew my mom was sick, and, she took these pills, and she was never, till this day, she's never been the mom that I remember growing up, despite, not really being there. On the weekends, we'd go to like the beach and stuff. And, we lived across the street from the water, and we'd go to the beach on the weekends and stuff. She'd sit there in her chair while we played in the water. She would communicate, and we'd go shopping and stuff for school clothes or whatever. After all that, and when she started taking the meds and stuff, she was kind of like, I don't know the word for it, like suppressed, kind of like medicated, I guess you could say. You could tell she's till this day in a fog, a lot slower, lethargic, and it's hard to watch, and it's gotten progressively worse over the years, because I think the pharmaceuticals have done some decent damage on her mind and her brain, and she forgets things and everything else. I mean, I think age has a pretty large say in all that as well, but still, none the least, it's been hard to watch. So as I got older, you'd think things would get normaler, but they didn't. My acting out got a little bit worse, and I always had jobs and stuff, and I got better jobs, and would get a job and work my way up, and get great pay. And I don't know what it is about my personality. Then I would like get bored and just quit after working to the top and getting all sorts of raises and being like employee of the month per se, and that I still don't understand why I did that. I mean, I don't know if it was like going back to the whole attention thing, just like whatever, but
needed a new challenge.
Yeah, I guess. But I'd get something great and then just leave it for no reason. Like I wouldn't do anything, or
it's like self-sabotaging behavior.
Yeah.
Yep. Almost feeling like maybe you don't deserve it, or if it's it'll you get rid of it before it's taken away. It's I can see that.
Subconsciously, that's probably what it was. But, even my family would be like, dude, what the hell? Like, you just, you had a great job. Like, why did you leave? And it's like, I don't know. I'm just doing something else now. And a large part of it was probably boredom, honestly. I just used to get bored very easily. They diagnosed me with ADHD, but I don't know. I just kept getting in trouble. At the end of the day, even with jobs and working and getting a steady paycheck, I'd get arrested for stupid stuff. Like I'd get speeding tickets and not pay them, and get my license suspended, then get arrested for operating a motor vehicle without a license. And, once again, my dad would bail me out, and, mentality there, Superman complex, like you said before, just I can get away with anything and just keep doing what I was doing and not stop. So then I had a very good job. I was working as a plumber's apprentice, and I was in New Haven, and I got in a very bad car accident. It was not my fault. I was honestly just sitting on the side of the road doing paperwork, and got put into a telephone pole. And I don't remember any of the accident. Thank God. I've seen pictures of the damage from the van and everything. But I woke up in the hospital, and I had to have people nurses that tell me that I was in a car accident. And it was like 6 days later. I was in ICU for 6 days, and the hospital for weeks. And now I get out of the hospital, and I'm obviously not working, and I'm going to see a lawyer and a chiropractor and a doctor for pain management. And now they prescribe me Percocets. Originally it was like 15 milligrams, and it's like, dude, I didn't even eat them at first. And then and I think it was a deal with the lawyer to get me more money from the lawsuit. And, hindsight, I wish I never even ever got prescribed them, because I have a very high pain tolerance, and I definitely did not need them. But I remember when I took them, dude, I felt like the man. I was like, these are great. And your situation, give them to friends. It's like, dude, take these. And the girlfriend at the time, here, take these. And, felt amazing. We originally eat them, and then a buddy of mine was like, no, you gotta snort them. That makes it even better, dude.
And it is. It's all about oh, it's better. Oh, they make you feel great. It's, no one's ever hey, these will mess up your life, but they feel good. It's no, you don't.
Well, back then it wasn't huge like it is now.
Yeah.
People didn't really know the effects of how bad and how addicting they are.
It wasn't talked about.
Something? Yeah. And as it was happening to me, I didn't even understand or realize what was happening to me. I didn't understand or realize how bad my life was getting. Looking back, I see everybody telling me dude, you're falling apart. Dude, what are you doing? Griffin, stop. Griffin, what's wrong? Griffin, you need help? I didn't hear any of it then. I hear it all now. And I didn't know about detoxes or rehabs. All I knew is if I didn't have these, I felt sick.
Yeah, my magic plan, between friends and things, is just don't do 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
That was it. That was I didn't understand what withdrawal was or addiction. It was just just do 3 days in a row and then take a day off, and then do 3 days in a row, take a day. That was the magic plan.
And something? I took them every day until a girl I was dating at the time told me, she was she's like, dude, these are changing you. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll stop them. I don't need these things. And I remember I threw them in a garbage can, because I was dead serious. I was like, oh, fine. If this is going to ruin my relationship, I don't need these. So I actually threw them in a garbage can. And I didn't know, because I was taking them consistently so much that, I didn't realize that if you go without them, you're sick. So then I wake up the next day, and I'm like, oh my God, oh, this is horrible. And I went back to that garbage can, and thank God they were still there. And I did drugs secretly for probably 3 to 6 months before the person I was with realized that I was still doing them.
Went through that.
Yeah. So, it was pretty messed up, looking back. So now here I am, I get a lawsuit, and, it was $80,000. And I buy a new car. I have a car, a truck, a boat, a motorcycle, an apartment 2 blocks from the beach. I'm the fucking man, And everybody, is hanging out with me, getting high with me,
And now, how old are you now?
I'm 20.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
worst thing that can happen to a 20-year-old.
Man, I'm reckless, Tim. Man, I am I'm going out on my boat, sniffing pills off the dashboard, tying a bungee to the steering wheel, full throttle. I'm yeah, we're going wave jumping. I'm climbing on the bow. I was a nutcase, and I did a lot of crazy shit, to say the least. I'd like, take the plates off my car and like, see a cop at a Cumbies, get a police chase on purpose just to run from them. I don't know. I think I definitely was an adrenaline junkie. I kind of still am till this day, but like I'm more responsible.
Now it's just up on ladders. Now it's like, I'll go 50 feet up on a ladder.
Now it's like, exactly. Oh, I'll clean your gutters, man. I'll climb right up there. I do stuff like that these days. But then it was reckless, and eventually it's like I didn't always get away with things. I thought I could, but I'd get arrested and in trouble for this, that, or the other, and finally it caught up to me, and it got so bad. It's like the pills. My doctor eventually cut me off. The money ran out. The repoed the car. I sold the boat. I sold the motorcycle. Friends are gone, of course, because everything else is gone. Girl left, and I'm by myself living out of my truck, and, stole money from my own family. Because it's like, man, when you're in that hole, you don't care about anybody or anything except that next fix. Like, just anything to feel better.
It's not even right. And that's what it is. A lot of people have a misconception is you just want to get high.
Yes.
And it's like, no, really, you just don't want to be sick.
Exactly.
It's not so much of like, I need to get high, because you don't even really get high anymore at that point. It's just you feel so sick.
Yep.
And so bad that it's not an option.
Yeah.
And you'll do anything not to feel that bad.
I mean, I wish I could describe the pain, but it's like all I know is your body aches from the inside. Like your bones hurt. Yep. And then it's like when you do that, no matter how little it is, it's like a fire is lit inside you and this warmth just spreads through your body. And it's like you're knocking, when you're detoxing or coming down, it's like you're on the door of death. It's like you're dying, like physically, but you're alive, if that makes sense. And it's like when you do the drugs.
And that's just the physical.
Yeah,
not to mention the mental obsession with it too. It's horrible.
And it's a horrible place to be in. And I don't wish that upon anybody. Not even my worst enemy. And, so here I am, cut off of the pills, and I was buying them on the street with what little money I could come up with or work for an honest buck. And I stole from my family to the point where they realized what was going on, and they cut me off. They wanted nothing to do with me, even get a restraining order. So if I even go to their house, I'll get arrested. Living out of my car, and it's like, I used to call it, this kid I'd hang out with would call it work. We'd be like, all right, what work could we do today? And work meant like, go steal a purse from an old lady's car at the library, or, something pretty fucked up, I was never a violent person. I could never hurt a fly. And my addiction had gotten so bad. I'm like literally living out of my truck up in the middle of the woods. And one night I was so bad, I'm like, fuck, man, like I need money. Like I burned every single bridge in my life. There's nobody I could borrow $1 from. There's nobody that even wanted to give me a job to let me earn an honest buck, because I knew I was a drug addict. And I mean, at this point, my physical appearance, like you just look at me. I mean, I was able to keep it a secret for like a little over a year. But at this point, like you look at me and you know when somebody's an addict when they're that bad. And at this point I went from pills, buying them on the street, realized heroin's cheaper. So now I'm buying bags of heroin. Was originally, sniffing the stuff. And then somebody says, no, dude, you got to do it like this. Use a needle. It really gets you up there.
Which is unfortunately the natural progression of that. A doctor prescribes it to someone young. Almost there's a business end to it, like you said, with the lawyer, and then you get cut off, and then the natural progression for most people, not all, but most people, somebody tells them, hey, this is cheaper, this is better. Oh, you do it like this, and it's even better. And it's well, that costs $100, and this costs $10. Well, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I think it was actually my drug dealer, which makes a lot of sense, that told me about the whole needle thing, that's a sick individual to do something like that. And I always told people and myself I hated needles, and I do till this day. Like if I ever have to go give blood, I don't know how I was a heroin addict and was an IV user, because like they stick the needle in and I still cringe and like look away, and just it's like I see it on TV and it makes me sick. But like I said, like it's I had lost every like bit of emotion, and it's like almost my soul was gone, and I was just like this human body walking around just like
Zombie.
a zombie literally getting its drugs and feeding myself, you know, but like all emotion was gone. All human feeling was gone. I didn't care about anyone, anything, not even myself. And it was sad. So one night I was so desperate and I was like, damn, like I went into a Walmart and I was walking around Walmart looking for things to steal. And I remember there was like a security guard walking around and there was like a cop parked out front. And I'm like, damn it, I'm not going to be able to steal anything. And I'm walking down an aisle and I see a BB gun and I'm like, oh, I'm like remembering people doing like robberies. So I ended up stealing a pellet gun from a Walmart, leaving the Walmart and, I parked outside this business and, I was watching people go in and come out, come in, go out. And, I park my truck and I get out and I go to rob this place. And I'm like, all right, I put my hood up and, I think I put it on inside out because it had like a college label on it. And I put a shirt up halfway over my face. And I remember I went to go rob this place. And despite being all strung out and sick and everything else, I was so desperate. I get out and I go to rob this place. I walk around the back and I'm like, all right, here I go. And I go to walk around and I stop. And I'm like, oh, I can't do it. All right, wait. I walk back. Man, I must have did that like 5 times until finally I worked it up. And, I actually went in and I held this place up with a pellet gun, but it was horrible. I mean, it seemed okay at the time, but like looking back, it's horrible because despite it being a pellet gun for everything, every thought in that woman's mind that was working behind that register that night. And, I've written letters and apologized, but no words can take back what I put that woman through, because I am sure her life since that night changed forever, and I mean, in the sense, like she's probably scared anytime somebody with a hood passes her or comes in any business she's worked at. This, since that night, anytime somebody comes in with a hood up or whatnot, she's probably scared in public. I mean, it's horrible, and I forever regret that. I just thank God it wasn't a real gun or I didn't hurt anybody physically or anything like that. But still, I still regret it, and it's sad that I allowed my life to get that bad. From living on a beach on a shoreline town and, being raised in, a prominent neighborhood to being a strung out heroin addict, living in his truck and holding up a business,
Unfortunately, you're not alone. That's been many people's story, very similar too.
Any walks of life, and I wish somebody told me like about a detox because, I no question would have walked into a detox when I still had an apartment, when I still had my family, would have walked into a detox and got sober, but I didn't know. Like, I didn't know these places existed. I just, call me stupid, but I just didn't know.
And it goes back to the whole, like, not talking about it, right? So,
Yeah.
I doubt that the people that you were hanging out with would recommend, like, hey, maybe you should get some help. Like, if
Yeah.
anything, they weren't even there anymore. And then at that point, your family had cut you off. And of course, like, your parents are not talking about anything personal like that.
Yeah, for sure. And my family didn't, they wouldn't even know. Cause I mean, the whole life, drugs, any of that, like my dad called weed dope for Christ's sake, I mean, I'd be like, where's the grass or where's the dope? And you catch us smoking weed growing up. So they knew nothing about it either. I mean, that was like the first kind of exposure to them when they found out and that I was a heroin addict. And so now after that night, it didn't get better. I kept doing crimes and I got away with that, believe it or not. I ended up paying for it later on, but they didn't know it was me until months later. And I did it 2 more times. And now the cops try to pull me over and I ran and I got away and then still driving the same truck. Like, oh, whatever, I'm Superman. I can just still drive around, same truck, same license plate. And even though I just held up a store, and they're looking for me, they're not going to find me. Yeah, they found me. And figured I could run again and tried to run and they rammed me and they, spun the car around and it was bad. And, they beat the hell out of me and that was the end of my terror there. And, I become incarcerated and it was hard. I mean, in the beginning, when I first went in, it was like I just couldn't wait to get out. You know, I was just kind of focusing on like, all right, what do I have to do to get out of here? And then once I realized, I'm like, all right, you're going to be in here for a while. You know, and lawyers are telling me like, dude, you're looking at like 5 to 10 years. And it's like, what? And I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, you got to get me out of this. You know, no, those days were over.
Dad can't get you out of that.
Yeah.
No, Dad can't get me out of this one. And, you know, hindsight, I was very pissed off that they wouldn't hire me like the best lawyer or anything else. But, you know, something I appreciate it now because it was tough love at the end of the day. They realized that, you know, all this helping me
was enabling.
Exactly. Getting me out of everything, giving me money, doing this, it was enabling. And it didn't do me any good. So now I had made my bed and I had to sleep in it. And that's actually where we met.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I ended up walking into a cell one night and here we are. And, you know, it's, I tell you all the time, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I believe we met for a reason. And, you know, I was, like always, I'm always sketchy about people. But I knew that if I was in this place, and despite what got me to this place, meaning prison, you know, despite doing all that, I'm a good person. And I know I'm a good person and always was, just made a lot of bad, fucked up choices. I knew that there had to be other people in here. And, you know, we became very good friends. And then... and
we made the best of it. Like, we both kind of, accepted this is where we are. We talked and discussed, hey, we got similar stories and they did this and you did this. And we both kind of just made the best of it. Like,
we did.
Became friends and just kind of played cards and joked around. And, we were just there. Like, we were just, talked and told each other our stories and, like, kind of grew and learned some, like...
And you guys could talk.
Yeah, we could
got some
talk.
of our stories. Oh, my God.
Yeah, God, we still talk about it. I'll tell you, it's amazing. Like, some of the stuff we did was, like, literally identical.
Yeah.
It is incredible. You know, and then... You know, we separated, and it's sad when because in prison, as you know, it's like, and anybody that's been there knows, they give you somebody to live with, and then you become friends, and then that person leaves, and you have no choice in the matter. And honestly, I thought that was the end of it.
You don't know who's coming in.
No.
That's the thing. It's like, you know the person you're living with. And
Yes.
It's like, I get along with them. This is great. And they leave, and it's like, I don't know who's coming in here.
Yeah, it sucks because you can get a winner and you can get a loser.
What are you here for? And
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah, it's tough. So, you know, I want to say that part of my life, that was my ledge. And, you know, because it was the first time in my life that, like, I was awake and I'm sober now. And, you know, all the feeling and emotion is sinking in. And I'm, like, realizing my choices, what they did to my family, society, the community, how, like, it just, my name, like, you know, my family's name, what it did, my actions, how they affect other people. Like, okay, it's not just my life that, you know, it affects. It's everybody else. Yeah. People around me. And not just them, but their kids. And, like, you know, that place that, you know, I went in and put a pellet on her. Like, her children's lives are affected. Like, they probably couldn't go out at night anymore. And that's hard to think about and deal with. And, you know, and I'm in jail now. And, like, I wish I had a normal family that I can call on the phone and talk to about things, but didn't have that. So I was kind of on my own. And it's, you know, I wish I could say that the manipulation ended in prison and, like, my drug addict ways ended there, but it didn't for a while. I continued to, like, manipulate to get my way and try to get things I wanted, like a television. I heard your mom talk about that in her story. And, you know, and there's things I continued to do to get my way. And then I realized finally, it's like, all right, man, you're like in your 20s now. You need to be an adult. And if anybody's going to make the change, it was going to be me. And I really had to put my foot down, and I wanted this more than anything. And my whole life, I always cared about what people thought about me, or, you know, how my family looked at me. And I knew they didn't respect me. Nobody really respected me. And I wanted that respect. But the biggest thing of all is I didn't respect myself. And that's where I wanted to start. And I figured it's all I really cared about, was just having self-respect and being able to respect myself. So I just started with me and stopped asking for money and stopped asking for things and hustled in jail. And as you know, I would fix headphones for $1 or fix this or that or make something, or, you know, I even like
MacGyver.
Yeah, they used to call me MacGyver because I'd fix anything. And I'd love it. It gave me something to do, other than watch TV or read a book. I could sit there and fix headphones or something. And I loved it. It kept me busy and something to do that whole time. And I mean, it got me through a good portion of the time. Plus, it gave me like a feeling of responsibility, like somebody needs me, counts on me, and, I had a little bit of respect from people. But, as time went on, I was able to like kind of get down to what it was that, the cause of everything and like my family issues and how I felt neglected my whole life and like why, I kind of did everything I did. And I feel like when the car accident happened, the pills happened, it was just an easy excuse to, get deeper in it and run from all this emotion and all this, crap I dealt with in my life. But I knew that I didn't want to live like that forever. So it's like I'm at this ledge in my life where it's like, all right, if you keep doing this, you're either going to be dead, keep going through this, or, you can turn the page and do something new. And like you said in your story, I remember I heard you say something about a counselor tell you that, if you leave here today, you're either going to be dead in prison or
back in rehab.
And, somebody had said something similar to me. They're like, something, you're either going to be dead or in prison the rest of your life. And, I'm like, son of a bitch, this guy was right, man. Like, I'm in prison. Like, shit. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I'm reading about the recidivism rate and everything else. I'm like, fuck, man. And I'm watching it. Like, people go home, and as you know, they go home and they're like back in months.
Or die.
Yeah, that was one thing that I was blown away by is seeing people leave and come back. And I was like, all right, well, I get that a little bit, but then leave and then die.
Yeah.
Leave an overdose, or they were back in gang stuff and get shot. And I was like, whoa, yeah, he was here just 2 days ago. He's dead now. Oh my God.
Yeah, and you'd see it on the news, man. Like people, it's like, dude, that kid just left the block like last week. Like, oh, he's dead. Like it's crazy. It's sad. It doesn't have to be like that. So I did it. I kind of put my foot down. I kept fixing things, but I kind of stopped hanging out with negative people and just focused on myself. And like I had gained a bunch of weight in the beginning, and I got up to like 250. And you were my cellie. I was a pretty heavy guy. I couldn't even do a single push-up then. And it's like, I'm like, fuck, like I got fat. Like I need to do something. And I started working out and I started losing weight. And, I kind of noticed my parents, like, kind of turned around and started like looking at me differently. And my brothers were like writing me more positive letters. And I'm like, all right, well, something's changing here. And it's obviously my actions are causing this. So I felt good about where I was headed. And I knew I wanted to do this. I wanted to, turn my life around. So they surprised me and ended up releasing me like super early. I had no idea. They sent me to a halfway house. Most terrifying experience of my life, because just like after being incarcerated for years and then like just opening the door and here's the world, it was so much. It was like the lights turned on after years, and it was terrifying. So I'm at this halfway house, and more rules, more structure, which I was fine with. I liked it. I was the only one that like volunteered to clean and everything. So I definitely thrived there. Ended up going on the job hunt. Did not realize in my entire life it was always easy to find employment. It was so simple. Like anybody would give me a job because they just knew who I was. But now I have a criminal record. I'm at a halfway house, and like I'm not a kid anymore. So I mean, Tim, I must have heard no probably 50 times at least, and it's like right there, it was a perfect excuse to like. I'd go back to the halfway house, and I knew there was drugs there. It was a perfect excuse to, like, just get high again. Fuck it. Like, I tried. I gave it my all, but it's not happening. But, something, I kind of stepped back. I looked in the mirror, and it's, you know what? No, this isn't it. Like, I'm going to get a job, man. And, like I said, everything happens for a reason. It was like the next day, this kid's like, oh, I can get you a job at the trash plant I work at. I ended up getting a job. Horrible job.
Yeah.
I mean, literally a trash plant, like sorting garbage. Like you're watching, tampons and needles and like dirty diapers roll by you on a conveyor belt. Like horrible for minimum wage.
But you were grateful to have that job.
Yes.
Best thing that can ever happen to you.
Loved it. Like, you know, and I thrived there. I loved it. And like, I even asked for a raise, but they're like, look, man, we're not going to give you a raise because we can hire 10 more guys just like you that will be grateful to have the job. So whatever. I kept it. It was a job. I did it as long as I could. I even got sick one time and got put in the hospital because like I got some kind of infection.
I remember that. Yeah.
Something in my eye.
Something in your eye.
Yeah, some kind of bacteria. But I still kept the job. You know, so I kept the job, and being the believer I am that everything happens for a reason, just kept doing it until something else came along. And a guy in my hometown had given me an opportunity, this angry old Italian guy. And, you know, it was in a job that I loved to do, my passion, landscaping. And I ended up started working for him. And here I am, like, trying to build my relationships back with my family. And despite them looking at me differently, I could still see that the respect wasn't there. You know, which I wanted. You know, I knew I respected myself. I mean, here I am waking up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning, riding a bicycle to the bus stop, getting on the bus to take the hour commute to my job, to work all day, to take that hour commute back home to get on the bicycle, to ride back, you know, to the halfway house. And, you know, I did that for forever, man. It felt like, you know, the longest time. And, you know, he's a hard man. And looking back, I appreciate it. And I don't only appreciate the opportunity, I appreciate the discipline that man taught me. I appreciate the hard work he taught me and the skills, basically. You know, so another opportunity ended up coming along, and, you know, it's at the place I'm at now, and I'm actually a partner in the business, and it's great. You know, my life couldn't be better. I met the girl of my dreams. You know, and I never thought that would happen. You know, I always thought like just my life would be different. You know, I thought I was going to be single forever. You know, I thought I was going to be just, you know, busting my ass for nothing forever. But it's weird. It's like you make this series of choices, and I was at that ledge in my life in prison. And, you know, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep doing this bullshit, manipulating people, or am I going to do the right thing? And the day I made the choice to do the right thing, till this day, I won't say I haven't made the wrong choice, because everybody makes the wrong choice all the time, but I've made the positive choice. You know, I've made the choice that's morally right in my mind. I don't care what anybody else thinks, but as long as I know it's the right choice and the best choice, or at least the most positive choice, I'm happy, because I believe in karma. And I feel like because I've made that series of choices along the way, just positive things have come to me. You know, it's like now it's like I've been doing it for so long that my family, you know, having been looking at me, yeah, they looked at me different. Now they actually do look at me with respect. They actually want to hear what I have to say. They actually want to know about my life. You know, and it was a long road, and there were so many challenges along the way. It's like, you know, went from that bicycle to a crappy truck to a,
which wasn't that crappy.
It wasn't that crappy. Okay. I went with you to pick it up. It wasn't that crappy.
It wasn't that crappy.
But you worked for it. That's the thing. It's like you worked for it. You busted your ass taking the bus. I did the same thing. I went through the exact same stuff. It's like you have the job that it's like not the best job in the world, and you take the bus and you bust your ass and you be disciplined and you make the right choices, and then you acquire something else. And it's like, oh my God, look at that. How did that happen? Yep. And you acquire more relationships and more respect, and you respect yourself more. And then you're like, all right, so you keep busting your ass, you keep making sacrifices, you keep doing the right, and you acquire something else. And it's not always just more things. Because things come, but it's more like you get more respect and more like love,
more satisfaction about the work that you're putting in. And like what I told you before, you know, because I remember you talking about your parents and, you know, like how they didn't respect you. And I told you, oh my God,
clean time.
Yes, clean time speaks for itself.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the word you're looking for is you gain dignity.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's like everything in my life. Up until the day I got out of prison till now, I have got myself. I have not asked for $1 from anybody, nothing, everything. You know, yeah, sure, I've taken out some loans, but I had to build my credit, get a secured credit card to even get there. And it's like now I just got approved for a home loan on my own, doing it myself, you know? And I mean, it's like to have that happen feels so good inside, knowing where I came from, and that like hard work actually pays off. Making the choice actually pays off. And it's like, I spoke about choices before, and it's like, along the way, even especially in the halfway house, there's always been the opportunity, like when things got hard, there's always been that door to run, to escape, to start getting high again. And it happens, everybody relapses, it just don't stop going forward. Trust me, I've taken steps back. And even today, sometimes I take a couple steps back. But every time you take 2 steps back, just work a little harder to take those 5 steps forward. And just know, like, you can't do it alone. Like, yeah, sure, I earned everything myself and every dollar myself, but I did not do it alone. There was people there for me. There was my family. There was my friends. There was you guys supporting me 100% of the way, like, morally, emotionally. And that is everything. Like, you can't do it alone, and nobody should have to do it alone. And communication is everything. I mean, there was a time in my life where, like, my family, and it was at the point when things were really hard. And, like, I called you guys, and I remember even Yvette was like, Tim, there's something wrong. And, you guys called me, and, like, I was in a bad place. Like, I was super depressed. Like, my family was just, like, basically judging me for everything in my past. And, I mean, it was hard. And if it wasn't for you guys, who knows what would have happened. But you were there for me. And, like, and I'm grateful. And that's why I love you guys so much. That's why I drive here through the snow to get here. You guys are always there for me, and it's what friends do. So, it's just today, everything, it feels good, and I'm happy. Like, I'm truly happy. And my past, I don't look at it as negative as it was. I believe it all happened for a reason. I say I would, if I could do it all over, I would do a few things differently, but I wouldn't have held up those stores. And, and I also, my other regret is taking the time away from my family. Those are my 2 biggest regrets. But everything I went through, I think it happened for a reason, because it made me who I am today. It gave me the strength I have. It gave me the courage I have. It gave me just the mentality I have, the appreciation I have, because I went from nothing to, I mean, I'm not rich and I don't have everything, but I feel like a king. I have the girl of my dreams, love, happiness,
for your
fat
home.
Truck.
Yes, beautiful truck. Thank you. And looking for a home, man, looking to start a family. And it's like, we joke about, like, credit now and recipes.
To think, like, years ago, we were sharing a jail cell, being junkies, screwing people over, to, like, marriage and kids and houses and credit, and, like, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's wild.
It is crazy.
But it doesn't happen by accident.
No.
It's choices, like you talked about. It's hard work, like you talked about.
Yeah.
It's all of that.
Yeah. And it's like, my family is never going to be the family that sits down at dinner, but my family's come a long way, and I'm grateful for that as well. Like, we all communicate with each other now. The mental health issues are still there, and we all accept it. But there's love, there's communication, and I'm constantly promoting that with my family. Like, look, we have to talk about things, okay? And one of my brothers has had kids, another one is having kids, and they're going to be great parents, because, like, we all communicate and talk, and we know what went wrong in our childhood, and goes wrong, I'm sure, in so many other childhoods, but. Let's make change, and let's make this a better, happier world, because I mean, I believe if we all stick together, this could be a good place, not to say it's a bad place, but I just know it could be better, and all the addicts out there and people struggling and on their ledge, man, just know and just have the strength and know. And I always told myself, when I was in the worst situation ever and, like, thoughts of suicide and stuff like that, I just tell myself, like, this is just temporary. This is not forever. This is just right now. You're in a bad spot, and it's going to pass. And it did, and it has. And life is what it is today. And I'm grateful and happy. And Stan here is the man you guys have. I'm lucky to have 2 great friends like you guys,
Man, we're lucky to know you, man.
I know.
This was amazing.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing this inspiration, and it's been awesome. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, me too. It took a little.
Took a couple times. Well, we did it a couple times, but this is the final the final product.
And I think it's perfect.
And I think I wouldn't change it.
Love it.
So
Thank you.
Love you, man.
Guys.
Love you.
You too.
All right, bye guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.